Hello, welcome to this presentation about different policy measures that can be implemented in the energy industry in order to increase its efficiency. My name is Sven, I work for NOE21, a Swiss independent NGO specialized in solutions against climate change. The goal of this presentation today is to give a general overview of some mechanisms that can be used in the energy industry to increase its efficiency. Three topics will be discussed today, the first one being decoupling, which affects the bulk generation and production offer side of the industry. The second one is demand-side management that affects the customer demand side of the industry. And the third one is smart pricing. This presentation will give definitions of these three topics, various examples, and will also relate three success stories in increasing energy efficiency. Following this presentation, NOE21's team will be on the phone to answer any questions that you may have. Decoupling demand-side management and smart pricing when used together can have significant effects on energy consumption. In California, for instance, since these measures were implemented, energy usage stabilized itself in the past 25 years in spite of the growing and strong economy. California uses 30% less energy per capita than the other states in the USA, not because they need less energy than other states, but because they use the energy more efficiently. Let me tell you a little more about these measures. First, decoupling. Traditional regulation links a utility's revenues and profits to its sales. If a utility sells more energy, it makes more money. If energy efficiency measures are put in place and the utility sells less energy, it loses money. Decoupling regulation suggests to disassociate the utility's profit from its sales. In that way, utility profits will be immune to changes in sales volume, and the utility will not be encouraged to sell more energy nor be affected by lower sales of energy. How does it work? A regulation authority fixes a base revenue for the utility that will cover all the costs in a year and take benefits into account. If the utility makes more than the base revenue, the surplus profits will be stored in a fund and used by the regulation authority to promote energy efficiency measures, for instance. If the utility makes less than base revenue, the consumer taxes will be raised, which will finance the fund and in turn finance the utility. The consumers will use less energy and pay it at a higher price, but will still have saved money as they use less energy to begin with. In California, in 1982, the California Public Utility Commission adopted the Electric Rate Adjustment Mechanism. This mechanism required utilities to track difference between actual and forecasted base rate revenues. When the actual revenues were above the forecasted base rate, over-collections were refunded to ratepayers. Otherwise, under-collections were recovered by subsequent rate adjustments. This mechanism allowed utilities to recover revenue requirements independently of actual energy sales. California was the first state to enact such a decoupling mechanism, but since then several other states have followed suit. More information about this complex mechanism can be found at aceee.org. Decoupling does not avoid building new plants. In a growing economy, energy consumption increases and production must therefore also increase. But in the decoupling case of a utility that sells more energy than its base rate, more energy than is allowed, then some money is generated and can be put aside or invested into replacing old power plants by newer, more efficient ones, for instances, or to invest into renewable energy, or in demand-side management measures or any other policies for increasing energy efficiency. Demand-side management is the reduction of consumer demand for energy through various methods such as financial incentives and education. Usually, the goal of demand-side management is to encourage the consumer to use less energy during peak hours or to move the time of energy use to off-peak times such as nighttime and weekends. Peak demand management does not necessarily decrease total energy consumption, but distributes it more evenly, reducing peak loads on the system, which can then reduce the need for investments in networks and power plants. There are various tools that can be used in order to reduce demand. These include technical measures, smart pricings, partnership with vendors, advertising, or integrated measures that take all of the above into account. Some of these tools will affect the direct energy load on the system by reducing it. These are mostly technical measures, such as replacement of old light bulbs and appliances for newer, more energy efficient ones, which will directly reduce energy needs. Some other tools can be used to shift energy consumption of customers. Some experiences have shown that with smart or innovative pricing, consumers will shift their habits and use energy at off-peak times instead of on-peak times. This is when smart pricing comes into play, but more about that in a couple slides. Some other tools, such as partnership with vendors and advertising, can act on both direct load control and innovative pricing. All these tools will have to effect to promote energy conservation or increase energy efficiency. The first of the four tools I mentioned before are technical measures. There is a wide array of measures that one can take to reduce consumption. For instance, one can replace old light bulbs and old house appliances by newer, more efficient ones. One can use the help of renewable energies by installing solar panels, small wind turbines, or geotechnical energy. One can increase building isolation by retrofitting. One can also install smart meters and demand response appliances. Smart meters give the consumer a better idea of their real-time energy consumption. Smart meters paired with smart pricing can change consumer habits and reduce demand. There is an example about smart meters coming up in a few slides, but in order to better understand the potential benefits, let me introduce smart pricing before. Usually, consumers pay their monthly consumption based on an average, while energy is more expensive to produce at peak times and less in off-peak times. The idea behind smart pricing is to adjust consumption rates to real-time energy production costs and have consumers pay real-time consumption in order to shift habits. Here's an example: smart pricing in California. This was a pilot study done between 2003 and 2004 with 2,500 participating customers. They experienced a dynamic rate form in order to see if it would change customer habits. Traditionally, one basic flat rate was applied for energy usage, let's say 7.5 cents a kilowatt hour for example. This rate increased or decreased on monthly stages following normal market prices. California then introduced three more different variable rates, one based on time of use, a critical peak fixed rate, and a critical peak variable rate. The time of use rate has three different rates depending on different production times. Let's say again 7.5 cents an hour for example for a regular time, 10 cents an hour for a peak period, and 5 cents an hour for an off-peak period. The critical peak fixed rate is based on time of use rates, but with an extra more expensive critical peak rate of let's say 15 cents an hour that can be dispatched during certain peak periods for the whole period with advanced customer warning, but only 15 times in a year. Then there is a critical peak variable rate that is also based on the time of use rate with also a critical peak period, but can be dispatched only during 2 to 5 hours during a peak event at any time in the year and with 4 hours advance notice. The goal of that pilot study was to see how these measures influenced energy consumption. The results of this study were very encouraging. On the critical peak days, every target group reduced its demand for energy. The time of use group reduced its demand by 4.1%, critical peak fixed group by 12.5%, and the critical peak variable group by 34.5%. On the hottest critical peak day, so this is in California, so the hottest day is the day where people use the most energy for refrigeration and cooling purposes. On the hottest critical peak day, the critical peak variable group reduced its demand by 47.4%. On the following graphic, we can see that as the critical peak period approaches, energy consumption rises. But once the critical peak rate is set and the critical peak period starts, groups with smart pricing based on time of use and critical peak pricing reduce their consumption for that period. They might not have reduced their overall energy consumption, but at least shifted it to another pricing period. This is the most obvious with the critical peak variable rate, where energy consumption went back to off-peak levels. The effects on customer savings were clear. Between 55 and 80% of the residential customers saved money with these variable rates. And only 20 to 30% paid more money as they did not change their habits and paid extra during peak hours. The results are even better for commercial customers and follow the same trends. More customers saved money than customers who paid more. A similar experience was conducted in Ontario and Canada in 2007. On top of the establishment of price plans like in California, the Ontario government installed 800,000 smart meters in homes so that customers could see their real-time energy consumption. In the California project, people were only aware of upcoming rate changes in peak periods without knowing exactly what their energy consumption was or how much less it was compared to normal. With smart meters, households can know precisely when rates change, know their energy consumption, and how much they are paying at the time. Some smart meters even have alarm systems that will warn one that rates are changing, going up or going down, and allowing the customer to react immediately and change their habits. In this experience, the regulated price plan was similar to the California one, with a time of use rate with critical peak pricing, and a time of use rate with critical peak rebate. On basic time of use rates, the off-peak rate would be 3.5 cents, the mid-peak of 7.5 cents, and the on-peak rate of 10.5 cents. On time of use with critical peak pricing, the critical peak rate would be of 30 cents during critical peak events, and on time of use rates with critical peak rebate, the customer would get back 30 cents for every kilowatt hour saved. The results were again very encouraging. Out of the three target groups, the time of use group averaged a 6% reduction in electricity use, the critical peak group 4.7%, and the critical peak rebate pricing plan 7.4%. An average 6% reduction just by establishing these time of use rates and allowing customers to know more precisely with the smart meter what their consumption was. Now these reductions, unlike in the California example, are total energy reductions over the full pilot period. Smart pricing can encourage peak shifting like in the California example, but can also contribute to overall energy demand reduction. There are numerous other smart pricing examples. Several states and countries have established dynamic pricing. Other examples can be found in the USA and Illinois, Utah, Maryland. Several examples also exist in Europe, in Belgium, and in Germany. And Ontario has a second study that they perform. The references here are available by email. If anybody is interested in these studies, just send us an email and I will send you a PDF of this PowerPoint presentation containing all these references. Besides smart pricing, other financial incentives can be put in place to reduce demand. 0% eco loans, for instance, where a financial institution or the government loans money with no interest rate to residential or commercial customers for investments in technologies that reduce demand. In environmental policy, white certificates or energy trading certificates are documents certifying that a certain reduction of energy consumption has been attained. In most applications, the white certificates are tradable and combined with an obligation to achieve a certain target of energy savings. White certificates are similar to the concept of carbon emission trading. Tax credits are simply tax reductions offered by a government for customers who invest in reducing their demand. In partnership with energy service companies, ESCOs, can also be done providing a broad range of comprehensive energy solutions including design and implementation of energy-saving projects. Another tool for demand-side management is partnership with vendors. Here are just a few examples. A vendor of appliances is financed to promote and sell or give energy-efficient appliances. This was the case in France with the Philips company that sold 10,000 energy-efficient light bulbs at a very low price or gave them away to customers with low income. Philips got a good image out of this campaign as a green company, and energy demand was reduced. A second example is independent engineering consultants are financed by utilities to do free energetical audits for homeowners and businesses. Customers are then aware of how they can save energy and can engage in transformation or retrofitting work to reduce their demand. Third example concerns the Luminous Idea program in New Brunswick. This was very similar to the 10,000 economical lamp program. The idea was also to change the old light bulbs for newer, more efficient ones. I insist on all these light bulb examples because they are a great and proven way to drastically reduce energy use, whether it be in households, in businesses, or in public services. In this case, in New Brunswick, newer light bulbs were not available. The project focused on encouraging vendors to import and sell this new, more efficient technology. Another good tool for demand-side management is simple advertising and awareness raising. The goal is to provide information for customers so they can make intelligent choices with their energy consumption. This can be done through awareness campaigns, green labeling of products, TV information spots, information brochures, and websites like the Top 10 site in China, that is a guide to best energy-saving products. Some other encouragement techniques, such as the European Energy Trophy, can also promote eco-friendly competition. In 2007, a consortium put several businesses and administrations into competition and offered a prize to who could lower their energy usage the most. Only simple free measures were used, such as turning lights off or equipment when exiting a room or lowering heating in a room by 1 or 2 degrees. The competition results far exceeded expectations, with more than 30% energy use reduction amongst 22 of the 38 participants. Another example is the InDeep Smart Meter project in the Netherlands. It is very similar in principle to the smart meter experience in Ontario, but instead of installing a smart meter, participants would receive a simple cardboard card looking like a smart meter, where they could record the daily energy usage. The card would then indicate, by a sliding mechanism, how much energy costed for that period of time, allowing better awareness for the customer. All these DSM measures are not exclusive, quite the contrary. All these measures go hand in hand with each other, and technical measures can or should be accompanied by smart pricing, advertising, partnership with vendors, financial incentives, etc. Here are 2 examples of DSM practices that integrated several demand-side management tools. The first example is in Seattle. 5.8% of the utilities revenues are used for various demand-side management measures, which gives work to 70 full-time employees. By investing only 5.8% of their revenue, they were able to save 889 gigawatt hours in 4 years, and customers saved up $370 million in 10 years off their bills. They have a very user-friendly website that proposes several solutions for homeowners and businesses. One can just go on their website and click on various topics to get information about how to reduce their energy demand and save money. Customers can also directly enroll in different plans to achieve this goal. The program is composed of all sorts of services, including rebates on energy-efficient light bulbs, free energetical audits for businesses, and free building renovations for low-income households. Geneva, where NOE21 has its headquarters, we have a very similar program to Seattle's program that offers various demand-side management tools to customers to reduce their demand. Solutions are also proposed to homeowners, businesses, and collectivities. These tools include technical measures, financial incentives, and advertising. Here is what the Eco21 website looks like. The advertisement campaign had a sort of comic connotation to it in order to interest customers. The idea was to say that we were attacked by evil, energy-voracious appliances and that we should get rid of them. Directly on the first page of the website, one can choose what category they are in, homeowners, businesses, collectivities, and get information. There are several plans offered by Geneva's energy utility company, which is named Industrial Services of Geneva, SIG in French. out of which one plan is named the Double Eco for homeowners, another one is named Megawatts for businesses, and a third named Eco-Social Operations for low-income collectivities. The Double Eco plan for homeowners encourages customers to reduce their demand by 15%. If they achieve this goal, then the utility gives them the same amount of money back that they saved by reducing their demand. Customers achieve double savings. The Megawatt plan is for businesses. Here, SIG will compensate 21% of a company's investments in retrofit work for better energy efficiency and will donate 15,000 Swiss francs a year to a company that creates an energy manager position. The utility will also give back 7 cents for every kilowatt hour saved. The Eco-Social Operations Plan is for low-income collectivities and is based on advertising campaigns, free energetical audits, free replacement of the light bulbs, and money compensation for buying new, more efficient appliances. Here are 3 examples of great success stories. One in California, one in Vermont, and one in Geneva, Switzerland. This graphic presents California's annual spending for energy efficiency programs. The costs represent about 1% of the utility's revenues. The low in 2002 represents economical difficulties at that time, and namely Enron's bankruptcy. It is interesting to see that there is a direct relation between economical investments into demand-side management measures and energy savings. The more money is invested in DSM measures, the more energy savings are made. In this case, this costed California approximately $300 million a year to save 1,800 gigawatt hours, a lot more interesting financially than building new power plants and networks. In Vermont, the same can be observed in the past years. By investing an average $30 million per year in energy efficiency measures, Vermont saved $120 million in avoided usage of resources. These measures allowed increased energy savings with a general trend that kept going up as these measures are put into place. Since 2007, Vermont averaged above 100 gigawatt hour per year in energy savings and with a peak above 140 gigawatt hours in 2008. All this for a cost of about $30 million. Again, much better than increasing production and building new plants. In 2008, by spending about $30 million in demand-side management measures, Vermont avoided the $160 million it would have cost to produce the extra energy. On a smaller scale, in Geneva, with the Eco21 program, 23 gigawatt hours have been saved last year with an investment of about 3 million Swiss francs. This represents in Geneva the energy usage of about 5,000 households. Without increasing energy production in Geneva, and by using DSM measures, 5,000 more households could be supplied in energy. In conclusion, I'd like to say that to solve shortage problems or to promote growth, cheap tools exist to increase a system's energy efficiency. Manage and reduce demand, and then increase offer accordingly. Thank you for your attention. I would like to mention that we saved 1.72 tons of CO2 today by not flying from Geneva to China for the presentation and by doing it by teleconference instead. We would be glad to answer any questions you may have by email or right now by phone. Today on the phone there is Kaim Nissim, Philippe de Rougemont, and myself, Sven Schmitz-Leifen.